All right, we're going to California, and we'll talk with Ali. Hi, Ali. What do you got for us tonight, sir?
Hi, Dr. Farley. I had a question regarding the law and Christians. Does not being under the law mean a freedom from any conviction of sin, or is it simply a freedom from living according to the Jewish tradition, but we could still be charged with wrongdoing or sin?
Well, you could be charged with wrongdoing by anybody, but you've been freed from condemnation by God. So, does it mean no conviction? Of course not. I mean, the implication is that Moses is the only person that could convince us about sin. The implication, the underlying implication of that question ultimately is, if you take away Moses, how will I know what sin is? And the answer is Jesus. That's how you'll know. You'll know because the New Testament is filled with what the fruit of the Spirit is, what God's agenda is with you, what He's doing, what growth looks like, what maturity looks like, what renewing the mind looks like, what immorality looks like. Everything from homosexuality in Romans chapter 1 to marriage in Ephesians 5 and 6, and 1 Corinthians 7. And I mean, we could go all over the New Testament. We don't have to rummage through Leviticus and cherry pick from the law to find out what the Holy Spirit is doing in our lives today. It's plastered all over the New Testament. So, the idea that if you're not under the law, how would you know what sin is? And the answer is Jesus, because anything that's not of faith is sin. The book of Galatians tells us that. But the problem is, so many Christians, not you, but I just mean so many Christians today, we are ignorant concerning our freedom from the law. And as a result, we run around saying, well, how would we know what sin is without the law? And the answer to that is, well, you better be glad that the law is not telling you what sin is, because the law says eating pork is sin. The law says eating shellfish is sin. The law says mowing your lawn on Saturday is sin. And then somebody says, well, don't worry, Jesus fulfilled those. So then what we're saying is that we're going to cherry pick. We're going to pick our favorite parts from the law and just ignore others. And that puts us in the role of God. We say, well, God, I'm going to take 613 commands. I'm going to delete, 603 of them. And then I'm going to define morality by the 10 that are left over. And I think God's opinion on that is, wait a minute. We can do better than that. I mean, really, is the goal of your life to avoid stealing? Oh, congrats. Is the goal of your life to avoid murder? Oh, bravo. You've avoided murder. Congrats. I mean, the fruit of the Spirit is so much bigger than avoiding stealing and avoiding murder. So we can define sin just fine. Anything that's not in dependency on Christ is sin. We don't need Moses to define sin 613 ways. We need Jesus to define sin one way, and that is anything that's not of Him is sin. And that is fleshed out all over the New Testament. So, Ali, I want to put you back on and see. Does that help some, my friend?
It does. It does appreciate it. But what I just want to make it clear from my question, I meant, does not being under the law mean that I no longer have to put in more effort to try to live a better life according to the law, since I'm no longer under it and it's been fulfilled by Christ? Does that sound correct?
Yes, that is 100% correct. The law is not your goal. If you were to try to put more effort in to obey the law, where would you stop? See, that's the point. The law is an all or nothing proposition. So does a Christian wake up every day and say, Lord, I want to try to put more effort in today to never work on the Sabbath. I want to try to put more effort in today to avoid shellfish. I want to put more effort in today for a woman, to not leave the house at a certain time of the month. Lord, I want to put more effort in today to sweep out my cabinets. I mean, where would you stop? And then who died and made us God? In other words, where do we get off just cherry picking from the law and picking certain parts. James says if you keep the whole law and stumble in one point, you're guilty of all of it. And Galatians says you're cursed if you do not obey everything written in the book of the law. So we Christians need to see that the law is an all or nothing proposition. It's not like the buffet line at the Chinese restaurant where you get to pick your favorite parts. So yes, to be clear, you are not supposed to wake up every day and try your best to keep the law. And God is not helping you keep the law. God is helping you bear the fruit of His Spirit. And that is a different mentality. We died to the law, Romans 7 says, so that we can bear fruit for God. What does that tell you? If you're going to bear fruit, you got to die to the law. Galatians 5:18, if you're led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Galatians 3:25, now that faith has come, we are no longer under the tutor of the law. How about Galatians 2:19, through the law I died to the law so that I might live to God. How about Romans 7:6, we have been released from the law, having died to that by which we were bound, so that we serve in a new way of the Spirit and not in the oldness of the letter. So isn't that amazing? We're serving God, but it's in a new way of the Spirit, not in an old way of the law. Romans 10, Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes. And then lastly, Romans 6:14, sin will not master you because you are not under law, but under grace. So everything we're worried about under grace is not a worry. Everything we're confident about under the law, we should not be. Because under the law, we sin more. Under grace, we sin less. Sin will not master you because you are under grace. Romans 6:14. So, Ali, I want to put you back on again and see. Does that help clear it up, my friend?
It does. Appreciate your explanation very much. Thank you.
You bet, my friend. Great to hear from you, and a great question. We love talking about law and grace around here.